The village shook with fear as the spirit lion's roar echoed through the night. Only one brave soul could save them now. Long ago, in a small African village called Mwangi, people lived in peace with the animals of the great forest that surrounded them. The village was a happy place, filled with the laughter of children playing and the rhythmic sounds of women pounding cassava and maize. Men tended to their crops and hunted in the forest, always careful to take only what they needed and to respect the spirits of the wild. Mwangi was led by a wise elder named Bravery, whose grey hair and wrinkled face told stories of many seasons past. He taught the villagers to live in harmony with nature and to honor the spirits of the land. One day, as the sun began to set and cast long shadows across the village, a hunter named Jabari returned from the forest with a heavy heart and shaking hands. The villagers gathered around him, worried by his pale face and trembling voice. "What happened, Jabari?" asked Bravery, placing a comforting hand on the hunter's shoulder. Jabari's voice quivered as he spoke. I have made a terrible mistake. I was hunting in the deep forest and saw a lioness. I thought she was just an ordinary lion, so I killed her." He hung his head in shame. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. Bravery's eyes widened with fear. "Jabari," he said slowly, "did you see if the lioness had a mark on her forehead? Like a star?" Jabari nodded, tears forming in his eyes. "Yes, elder. I saw it after it was too late." Bravery's face grew grave. "Oh, Jabari. That was no ordinary lioness. You have killed the wife of the spirit lion, the guardian of our forest." The villagers began to murmur in fear. They all knew the stories of the spirit lion, a magical creature that protected the forest and all its inhabitants. It was said that the spirit lion and his mate had lived in the forest for hundreds of years, watching over the balance of nature. That night, as darkness fell over Mwangi, a bone-chilling roar shook the very ground beneath their feet. The spirit lion had discovered his mate was gone, and his cry of anguish and rage echoed through the trees. For days and nights that followed, the spirit lion's roars kept the village in a state of constant fear. No one dared to leave their huts after dark. The crops began to wither in the fields because the men were too afraid to tend them. Children no longer played outside, and the once lively village fell silent, except for the distant roars of the grieving spirit lion. Bravery called a meeting of the village elders. They gathered in his hut, their faces etched with worry. "We must do something," said one elder named Jelani. "Our village cannot go on like this. We will starve if we cannot tend our crops or hunt." Another elder, Aziza, nodded in agreement. "But what can we do? The spirit lion is too powerful. We cannot fight him." Bravery closed his eyes, deep in thought. After a long moment, he spoke. "There is a way, but it will not be easy. In the old stories, it is said that the spirit lion has a magical treasure in his den. This treasure is the source of his power and his connection to the forest. If we could retrieve this treasure and offer it to the spirit lion as a sign of our remorse, he might forgive us." The elders looked at each other, hope and fear mixing in their eyes. "But who would be brave enough to enter the spirit lion's den?" asked Jelani. As the elders debated, a young girl named Asha listened from outside the hut. Asha was known in the village for her kind heart and her fearless spirit. She was often seen helping the old and sick, or rescuing animals trapped in snares. Asha's parents had died when she was very young, and she had been raised by the whole village. Perhaps this was why she felt such a strong connection to everyone in Mwangi. Asha's heart raced as she listened to the elders. She knew what she had to do. Taking a deep breath, she pushed aside the cloth covering the entrance of the hut and stepped inside. The elders fell silent, surprised by her sudden appearance. "Asha," Bravery said gently, "this is a meeting for elders. You should not be here." But Asha stood tall, her eyes shining with determination. "Elder Bravery, I heard what you said about the spirit lion's treasure. I will go. I will bring it back." The elders looked at each other in disbelief. Jelani spoke up, his voice kind but firm. "Asha, you are brave, but you are just a child. This task is too dangerous." Asha shook her head. "I may be young, but I am not afraid. I know the forest better than anyone my age. And..." She hesitated for a moment. "I understand loss. I lost my parents, but the village became my family. Maybe I can help the spirit lion understand that revenge won't heal his heart." Bravery looked at Asha for a long moment, seeing the wisdom in her young eyes. Finally, he nodded. "Asha speaks with the wisdom of an elder. If she is willing to go, we must let her try. She may be our only hope." The next morning, as the sun began to rise, Asha prepared for her journey. The villagers gathered to see her off, their faces a mix of hope and worry. Bravery approached her, carrying a small pouch. "Asha," he said, handing her the pouch, "take this with you. It contains sacred herbs that may protect you on your journey. Remember, bravery is not the absence of fear, but the strength to face it." Asha nodded, tucking the pouch into her clothes. She looked around at the faces of her village, her family. "I will come back," she promised. "And I will bring peace." With that, Asha turned and walked into the forest. The villagers watched until she disappeared among the trees, their hopes and prayers going with her. Asha's journey was long and filled with challenges. She walked for hours through the thick forest, the sounds of strange birds and animals all around her. As the day wore on, the forest grew darker and more forbidding. At one point, Asha came to a wide, rushing river. She knew she had to cross it, but the current looked strong and dangerous. For a moment, fear crept into her heart. But then she remembered Bravery's words about bravery. Taking a deep breath, she began to look for a way across. Asha spotted some large rocks jutting out of the water. If she could jump from one to another, she might be able to cross. It was risky, but it was her only choice. With careful steps and a few heart-stopping leaps, Asha made her way across the river. As she reached the other side, soaked but safe, she felt a surge of confidence. She could do this. As night fell, Asha found a large, hollow tree to sleep in. She curled up inside, listening to the night sounds of the forest. In the distance, she heard the spirit lions roar, closer now than before. Instead of feeling scared, Asha felt sad for the lion's pain. She understood what it was like to lose someone you love. The next morning, Asha continued her journey. The forest grew denser and darker. Strange mists swirled around her feet, and she could feel eyes watching her from the shadows. But Asha kept going, her determination growing with each step. Finally, as the sun began to set on the second day, Asha saw a large hill rising before her. At the top of the hill was a dark cave opening. She knew this must be the spirit lion's den. Taking a deep breath, Asha began to climb the hill. The rocks were sharp and the climb was steep, but she didn't give up. As she neared the top, she heard a low growl coming from the cave. Her heart pounded, but she kept going. At the entrance of the cave, Asha paused. The growl had stopped, replaced by a sound that surprised her, crying. It was a deep, rumbling sort of cry, filled with sadness. Gathering all her courage, Asha stepped into the cave. As her eyes adjusted to the darkness, she saw him, the the spirit lion. He was enormous, bigger than any lion she had ever seen. His mane seemed to glow with a faint golden light, and his eyes, when he turned to look at her, glowed like embers. But what struck Asha most was the lion's expression. It wasn't anger she saw, but deep, heart-wrenching sorrow. Tears streamed down his majestic face, and his body shook with each sob. For a moment, Asha forgot her fear. All she could see was a creature in pain, just like she had been when she lost her parents. Without thinking, she took a step towards the lion. The spirit lion's eyes fixed on her, and he let out a low growl. "Who dares enter my den?" his voice boomed, shaking the walls of the cave. Asha's voice trembled, but she stood her ground. "Great spirit lion, I am Asha from the village of Mwangi. I have come to speak with you." The lion's eyes narrowed. "Mwangi? The village of the hunter who killed my beloved?" His voice grew angrier. "Have you come to finish what he started?" Asha shook her head quickly. "No, great spirit. I've come to say we're sorry. The whole village is sorry for what happened to your wife. It was a terrible mistake." The spirit lion roared, his anger filling the cave. "Sorry? Sorry cannot bring her back. Your village must pay for what they've done." Asha felt tears in her own eyes, but she didn't back down. "I know sorry isn't enough. I know how you feel. I lost my parents when I was very young. For a long time, I was angry too. I wanted someone to pay for my pain." The spirit lion's anger seemed to falter for a moment. He looked at Asha with curiosity. "You are but a cub. How can you understand my loss?" Asha took another step forward. "Because loss is loss, no matter who you are. It hurts the same. But I learned that holding on to anger only caused me more pain. It didn't bring my parents back." The spirit lion was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice softer now. "What did bring you peace, little one?" Asha smiled sadly. "The love of my village. They became my new family. They showed me that even though I lost something precious, I could still find love and happiness." As Asha spoke, she noticed a soft glow coming from a corner of the cave. There, on a small stone pedestal, sat a beautiful golden amulet. It was shaped like a lion's paw print and seemed to pulse with a gentle light. Asha realized this must be the magical treasure Bakery had spoken of. The spirit lion followed her gaze. "You've seen my treasure. Is that why you really came? To steal it?" Asha shook her head firmly. "No. I came to make peace. The treasure belongs to you." She paused, then added softly, "But maybe you could use it to help our village instead of hurting it. You could be our protector, like you protect the forest. We could be your new family." The spirit lion's eyes widened in surprise. For a long time, he said nothing, just looked at Asha with an unreadable expression. Then, slowly, he moved towards the amulet. Asha held her breath, unsure what would happen next. The lion picked up the amulet gently in his mouth and walked back to Asha. He placed it at her feet. "You have a wise heart, little one," he said. "Wiser than many who have lived far longer. You're right. Revenge won't bring my mate back. It will only cause more pain." Asha felt tears of relief and joy run down her cheeks. She reached out slowly and placed her hand on the spirit lion's mane. It was soft and warm, and she felt a gentle energy flow through her. "Will you come back to the village with me?" she asked. "To show them that you forgive us?" The spirit lion nodded. "I will. And I will be your protector, as you suggested. But first, there's something I must do." He picked up the amulet again and walked to the entrance of the cave. There, he let out a mighty roar. The amulet glowed brightly, and suddenly, the forest seemed to come alive. Birds sang, animals called to each other, and a warm breeze rustled through the trees. "I have renewed my connection to the forest," the spirit lion explained, "and extended it to your village. From now on, Mwangi will prosper as long as it respects the ways of nature." Together, Asha and the spirit lion made their way back to the village. When they emerged from the forest, the villagers were amazed to see the small girl walking side by side with the majestic lion. Bravery stepped forward, bowing low to the spirit lion. "Great One, we are deeply sorry for the loss we caused you. Can you ever forgive us?" The spirit lion's voice was gentle as he replied, "Your young Asha has shown me the way to healing. I forgive you, and I offer my protection to your village." From that day on, Mwangi flourished under the spirit lion's protection. The crops grew tall and strong, the forest provided plenty of food, and no harm ever came to the village. Asha grew up to become a wise woman, respected by all for her bravery and compassion. She often spent time with the spirit lion, learning the secrets of the forest and the importance of balance in nature. And so, the story of Asha and the spirit lion was told for generations in Mwangi and beyond. It reminded people that true bravery often comes in the form of kindness and understanding, and that even the deepest wounds can be healed with love and compassion. As for the spirit lion, he found a new purpose as the guardian of Mwangi. And though he never forgot his mate, he discovered that his heart was big enough to love and protect an entire village. In time, his roars became a source of comfort for the villagers, a reminder that they were safe under his watchful eyes. And so, the village that once shook with fear at the spirit lion's roar now slept peacefully, knowing that their brave little girl had turned an enemy into their greatest protector.